Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Here.
Councilmember Dewey.
Here.
Councilmember Gibbons is absent. Councilmember Litzo. Here. Councilmember Sears.
Here. Thank you. We have a couple people up here tonight. David Weidler, our Assistant Chief Administrative Officer, is filling in for our Chief Administrative Officer, Russ, who's not here. And we have a familiar face we haven't seen for a while, Sarah Mullen, filling in for John tonight. Welcome, Sarah. Thanks for being here. All right, we'll go straight to public comments.
The public comments portion of the meeting is an opportunity for the city council to listen to comments from citizens. It is not a question and answer session, and the city council will not respond to comments or answer questions during this period. The mayor may refer any matter brought up to the city council to the chief administrative officer or city clerk if action is needed.
Thank you, Bridget. Do we have anyone?
Ed Golderman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Ed Golderman, 542 Woodell Court over toward the community college. I hope 2 weeks from tonight that I can fill a bus on the Woodbine line through Kirkwood, come up here and thank you all for making that happen. And then the bus, the full bus will go and have a few drinks in Kirkwood. A city that does not provide safe, adequate, accessible public transportation will die. It's just a matter of when it dies. My assessment is that from Manchester south, in the inner ring to Telegraph Road, Bi-State Metro is in the process of eliminating what they probably will do is all public transportation. The people who run the city park downtown, they know the importance of transportation to their business. Transportation equals business, equals revenue, equals profit. So they want a rail, metro rail from north right to their place, and they're probably going to get it. 306 of our fellow Kirkwoodians and friends and business people signed these sheets over the last week. You have copies of them so you can then look and check some of the demographics. We've been doing a study that to reroute, and this is not a new line, but just to reroute from the community college over Couch, down Woodbine, and then through and down to Webster Groves and we're working toward this, and that's the second document, can generate 4,000 fares a week. 4,000 because you're talking about back and forth, and you're talking about an area that can drive half of those down and then an area that can drive half of those up. So what I suggest is that we have Mr. Charles Stewart, who says these cuts are minor and unimportant. Let's invite him out. Let me walk him through this route and show him the business. All we can do is fill them. We cannot protect people, and public safety is the second part of this. They simply have to partner and make these units safe. So by about Tuesday, I'll have my study done. May I submit it to somebody? That would be okay. And then
Deputy City
I'd
Clerk
asked you something today. Did you get my request?
Yeah.
All right. I won't put you on the spot, but I do want to know when that route was ended and why. Mayor, thank you very much. Council, thank you.
Ed. We have anyone else wishing to
Mayor and
speak?
council, there are no other comments.
Thank you, Bridget. We will now move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second. All right. Do we have any questions or comments on it? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion passes. We have no unfinished business, so we will go to new business. Bill 10985.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance amending the provisions of the municipal code, chapter 25, zoning and subdivision regarding revisions to B2 mixed-use development standards.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. This is one of the items from our public hearing at the last meeting. This is the text amendment that would apply to the development plan that we will consider at the next meeting. If this one passes, it's first reading tonight and second after that. It's part of that, but it's also broader and is a change to the zoning code. So as we consider this, it's one of those things, keep in context, this development plan is what precipitated it, but it does apply to the is change the zoning code in general. So, have any questions or comments from council? Councilmember Litzo?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, not sure whom to ask this. Jonathan, as far as the verbiage goes, Jonathan, and how you envision this change to be implemented, I'm just wondering, how do we measure minimum impact? Is there, with the public benefit things where it's kind of a equivalent sort of thing? I think there's kind of guidelines, but I'm just wondering if you envision sort of similar guidelines that council and staff and planning and zoning might have, or,
Yeah, so for the site plan modification, there actually isn't a quantitative measure to them. It is something that's discretionary. And that's the same thing that would apply here. So it's up to, and I think I mentioned this in the public hearing a little bit, but if you get too prescriptive in the way things are written, in my opinion, you are going to be missing some opportunity, right? So, and I think it's worked well over the past few years when the council has had this discretion and able to at least listen and entertain a proposal. I mean, obviously from the staff perspective, we will be driving home this when people come to us and say, you have to prove that it's a minimum impact, right? And that's part of our job, is to kind of be bad cop at the beginning, right? And say, it's going to be a hard threshold. You have to prove why it's minimum, right? But then it'll be up to you all to determine what exactly that means. And it could mean something different at different locations as well, on different corridors at different
right,
properties.
a physical impact or economic impact.
So the language is a minimum impact on the commercial frontage. So
Oh, that-
physically on the requirement today is that it's all commercial frontage. And we're just saying part of it, there can be minimal parts of that required commercial frontage that are part of the parking area or something like that. So it is specific to the physical commercial frontage that the impact is what we're talking about.
So you wouldn't be saying like, in this case where I thought Amy said that there would be a requirement for an additional 1,200 square feet of retail. I don't know if I'm making it up. And if you would calculate sales taxes or whatever, you're not looking at a fiscal note in that regard. You're looking more at.
Yeah, we don't, from the zoning perspective, we don't really can't evaluate on revenue. And so our regulations don't, it's based on land use and form and things. So no, our impact that we're talking about is what impact it has on the built environment, the activity that we want to generate, right? So is there still commercial activity? Is there still the building form that we want to see? So
Mhm. I mean, with regard to this, which I think is overall a fine development. I think, it kind of checks boxes on what we envision for across from the Performing Arts Center. But for along South Taylor, I would, I would have hoped that that there had been, additional opportunity for small shops for Strange Donuts if they want to expand, to move over to a Stranger Manger and add some kind of sit down, whatever.
Further on South Taylor on other
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
So the code right now, this is the only piece on South Taylor that requires commercial.
Right.
So, I mean, people can still propose it. It's just not required on other pieces. So that's kind of a different matter of our map that shows where commercial is required and not. This isn't affecting where it's required.
Right. But we're allowing them to have the access to the underground parking off of Taylor,
Mhm.
opposite our Performing Arts Center. So,
Yeah, this code change would allow the development that will be on the slate next meeting and other developments to propose to request that you all consider the development as a whole and have some flexibility to consider that in this, I don't want to get too much on the development plan, but in the specific case that the plaza and the commercial frontage that they're providing is the activity that we want, and that the current strict letter of the code is a hindrance in this case to
mhm.
realize what the city wants.
That's all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Councilmember Ward?
Jonathan, you're the only one here with a considerable amount of professional planning experience. Is it safe to say that in the future, that if the market makes retail demand high, that buildings like this would seek some type of conversion to allow for retail? It seems right now that the retail market is pretty questionable. It's soft at best. And anything we do on this particular block might simply just cannibalize other areas that we have. I'm just making hypotheticals here, but do you see us locking ourselves into an unaltering future with this project?
No, I think the commercial real estate market is very creative, and if the markets drive them, and it's something that the community wants and the markets are driving it, I think there are ways that it can adapt. So, yep.
Thank you.
Just briefly, and it's just a comment, Jonathan. Councilmember Litzo and I talked about this earlier today, and I appreciated the issue of bringing it up, but I did tell Nancy that I'm fully in favor of it. I think it makes sense, and there is flexibility, and just because it's in there doesn't mean that everyone that comes, through staff planning, zoning, yes, makes sense and has to be approved, but but not in general. Specifically, I think this text amendment is a good one to make, so. Anything else? Oh, Councilmember Sears.
I'll quickly speak in favor of it too, and I think that while there can, I understand a concern over gives too much, or whatever, but I think it's the language is narrowly tailored. We're talking about not that it has, it has to have a minimal impact on the very thing we're trying to drive by allowing these things to be built. So, if it doesn't change, my view, and I think a reasonable view is if whatever is requested in the future doesn't alter the core of what we're trying to do, our goal, then that's a minimal impact. If it does change it so that there's, we'll know it when it's too much. But anyway, that's my view. So I'm in favor of it. I think it was well drafted and tailored to what we need.
Good. Anything else? All right. Oh, Councilmember Zimmer.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think this is a unique parcel, and I think the language of this text amendment will give us the flexibility that we know we're going to want, but trusting that the staff is going to be the bad cop in the beginning and ensure that we are getting as close to what we envision as we can. So we're not just gonna say, well, you know, we're not gonna have any commercial development at all. You know, this is tailoring to the site specific issue that we have because, you know, this is a corner lot. So you have to consider that and, you know, the slope of the land of this lot. So you know, at that point, I trust the staff to recognize that and to ensure that we're getting as close to we can as to the overall goal of having commerce in Kirkwood.
Anything else? All right, seeing then and all in favor of the bill for first reading, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Bill passes first reading. So what will happen is this next meeting, this bill will be on for second final reading. As will the development plan. Assuming this passes second reading, we will vote on the development plan that night. So thank you all. Bill 10986.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance appropriating $42,883.48 from the Equitable Sharing Fund balance to the Police Department Machinery and Equipment account and accepting the bid of wireless CCTV in the amount of $42,883.48 pursuant to General Services Administration GSA Advantage Cooperative Contract for the purchase of a portable trailer surveillance camera system for the police department and authorizing and directing the Director of Procurement to issue a purchase order.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor of first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Bill passes first reading. Bill 10987.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance appropriating $14,512 from the capital fund balance to the street department rolling stock account and accepting the bid of Viking Chives Midwest in the amount of $112,476 pursuant to Sourcewell Cooperative Contract for the purchase of a 2023 Ford F-550 chassis with a Viking Chives dump body for the street department and authorizing and directing the Director of Procurement to issue a purchase order.
Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Bill passes first reading. Resolution 75, 2023.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution amending the contract with Lockmuller Group for a not to exceed amount of $73,030, which includes a contingency of $6,639 for traffic signal engineering services and maintenance for the engineering department and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an amended contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
There's a motion, a second. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 76, 2023.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution accepting the bid of Truck Centers, Inc. in the amount of $202,036 pursuant to MoDOT Cooperative Contract for the purchase of a 2023 Freightliner M2 chassis with a Viking dump body for the street department and authorizing and directing the Director of Procurement to issue a purchase order.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Lizzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Resolution passes. That concludes the formal business. City council reports. Just a comment from me, you know, we had just an incredibly successful Route 66 cars and guitars and carbs and guitars last Saturday. Just thousands and thousands of people and just a big thank you goes to all the people who organized it and put it on, which includes probably every department in the city, police, fire, public services, electric. I shouldn't mention it because I'm gonna leave some out, Parks and Rec,
Everybody.
yeah, SBD, that's
Everybody.
just so many, and just thank you for all you did. It's just become an incredibly great event, and I hope it continues. So.
And no complaints on the traffic flow down Kirkwood Road either for that.
There you go.
It's become a Kirkwood tradition.
Yep.
Knock it off. Good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any other council
Yeah.
comments? Councilmember Litzo?
Well, it's not really a report, but maybe sort of a public request that council really consider, and maybe, I don't know if we can do it at the upcoming July budget planning session or what, but I've been talking with a lot of citizens who are involved in the Connect Our Community effort, and their desire to have more protected bike lanes, try and work with the county and other jurisdictions on perhaps connecting Grants Trail to the new pedestrian bike bridge over the Merrimack River at I-44, and also to connect Grants Trail as well to the Merrimack Greenway down in Valley Park. I know there may be federal funding available involving the Safe Streets for All effort that Jonathan and other staff were involved in securing a planning grant for that. We haven't really talked about, moving forward with that. We're still working on our extension of the trail into downtown Kirkwood, which is very successful in obtaining 2 grants to help with that. But I would, because it seems to be a growing movement and a lot of people throughout Kirkwood who are involved in this whole thing. I hope that we can somehow, get that on our radar and see if, what are the possibilities working with St. Louis County, other municipalities, for safer streets, working on Big Bend, et cetera. That's all.
No, it's really good. And actually, I'm glad you brought it up because I do want to make a brief comment on that because I've been pretty quiet on the whole thing. There's not going to be a grant application for this year. That's just pretty clear. We all get emails and I hear some say, oh, it's just a planning grant. It's not going to happen this year. And there have been meetings. I've had meetings with Sam Page and others from the county. Councilmember Gibbons was with me on that one, and there will be others. So it's not a matter of us not working with the county. The county's made it very clear, as has GRG. This is just not in their priorities for the next X number of years. Does that mean we cannot talk about it and see how it goes? But time to be clear, we are not going to make a grant application for July, whatever it is, July 14th or 10th or whatever it is. It's just not as simple as, well, it's just for planning. You kind of have to know what you're kind of leading towards, what you're planning. There's other organizations involved, other communities. So thank you for bringing it up because it is something. Next week I was going to work with Russ when he came back and make some kind of statement, but you brought it up. I think it's just very, very clear. It's not that we don't care. It's not just as simple as applying for a planning grant, right? Yeah. So thank you for that. Anything else from council? Councilmember Ward?
If there's no one else, I'm gonna probably spend a little more time than I might normally, and someone throw something at me if this becomes one of those streams of consciousness that we're so used to hearing.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm too.
Make sure it's something that's edible. First thing I want to do is go down a list of what I consider to be positive accomplishments. They're not in any date order. nor are they prioritized in any way. It's just as they came to mind. I'd start with the COVID recovery. We got through that financially in better shape than most municipalities in the entire state. And that was a good thing. We reacted quickly and preemptively instead of retroactively. That's always a better thing to do. Got the Performing Arts Center open and running. It's a beautiful place. It's been important for development in that area. Clearly, it's made a difference. We did the downtown rezoning, which spurred that development down there that we see that we're benefiting from all now, and we will going forward. And you know, and the rezoning and in the development, I'll separate the downtown development out there because there were some controversial decisions on the size of our buildings and whether the world would come to an end if we had one more story than we had historically. The employee-focused strategic plan, first, got to be the first in the city's history, where we've recognized that our human capital deserves some serious consideration and support in order to be the best that they can be. And that means providing them with all the resources they need financially and physically. Safe Streets Plan, we got that in place, which is a good thing. I'm not so sure how well we're going to handle implementation. So far, it seems like we've got a very soft start at that, but it's there, and I hope we can utilize it more deeply with all of our streets and plans. We shifted the planning department to an autonomous department. That was a good move. It's made a big difference in how we do business. And I think that it's going to be good for us going forward. We added battalion chiefs to the fire department. I think that was a good move. I think that'll pay dividends. It already has. We automated the trash collection. Good thing. I think it's working out well. I think it's going to bode well for the future also. We installed smart electric meters and water meters. Once again, a savings to the residents of this community. We reduced a number of the obstacles to business development downtown. Created a stormwater runoff ordinance. That one needs to be tweaked still, I believe. As a matter of fact, I think we should probably have a calendar so that routinely everything gets reviewed every 5 years or some portion of time, rather than just waiting 25 years from now. Somebody says, hey, the stormwater thing's not working. You know, I think it'd be easy to schedule reviews for those. We reported out our revised landmarks ordinance, and I'm hopeful that we get that completed to the councils for review and hopefully for approval. Some very important changes and significant changes were made to that ordinance. I think it's arguably not effective what we have in place today. If you witness our history, our recent history in demolitions and applications for demolitions, what we have is not working, and we need to really get at that change. We began preliminary steps of creating formal training guidelines for each board and commission. Dave and Laurie are working on that, and I hope we can get that to the council for approval. It's shocking that we have some 120 residents volunteering to serve on boards and commissions, and only really 2 of them have any significant formalized training. And 2 which are totally autonomous in the library board and the park board, they don't have anything. So, you know, those are, I view every board and commission we have as important to this support of high quality of life for the city of Kirkwood. And if it's not, then maybe we should eliminate it. But I think that's important that we get that done. And there may be some other items out there that I forgot, but I think that's an impressive list. The 14 items that we made some changes in. when I ran for my first term, I had a set of goals that I believed were of the highest priority for the city of Kirkwood. And they weren't, you know, you didn't have to search far and wide to come up with those. It was streets, our water network. This one probably didn't occur to many people, but a youth movement for our council and for our boards and commissions. We're repopulating with old folks and we're running out of old folks. And we need young people and younger people involved in our city government because they're change agents. And change can be good. Change is a necessity. And so I think I hope we can do some things to spur that their increased participation in young people. I'm heartened by the change, the transformation that I see in the Chamber of Commerce. It has really been invigorating, and it's young people who are out and active and in our community and care about our community. We need to figure out a way to make this council an attractive place to come and our boards and commissions an attractive place to come and serve. And the fourth goal I had was to implement a formalized deferred capital maintenance program. You know, we had a perfect starting place, which was in, you know, because I understand you need to take baby steps getting into this, but we put up a performing arts center. You know, it would have been ideal to set up a maintenance fund for that, to begin building it. So things will wear out. Seats and lights and curtains and equipment, electronics are going to be more important than they have been in the past because it's going to change. But right now we still use the hope we got some money when it starts to fail budgeting process. That's dangerous. And you don't have to look very far. You can go back to the first two goals, streets and water. Nobody decided we should plan for their eventual maintenance or replacement. And here we are, left holding the bag. And that's no way to run a first-rate quality city. And I hope we can figure those items out and in a very short period of time, because things aren't getting newer. One of the things that was important to me in how we make decisions was having data and facts. And we're not very good at asking for facts and asking for data. And sometimes we're not very good at receiving it. You know, I asked repeatedly for a historical accounting, but getting back to our street situation, what did it cost us per lane mile to run our own city street operation, excluding concrete, versus what we've done over the last 10 plus years, bidding it out? I think you all should want to know that. Is it a good game where we are? Is it a bad game? Would we be better off if we owned our own people and equipment? I don't know. And I suppose none of you know either, because we don't have that information. So facts and data count, and they should be important, and we should charge our administration to provide us with those as often as necessary. I also have believed that when I came on board that to be a very effective council, we needed a lot of collaboration and a lot of sharing of opinions and information. And we don't do that. And we more often than not, folks are playing their cards close to their vest as if we're in a poker game. And what's at stake, what's on the table are the quality of lives of people in this community and its future. And playing your cards close to the vest doesn't benefit us all, it harms us. You know, there's 7 of us because we all have 7 different life experiences, professionally and personally. And we should be able to benefit from hearing from each of us on every item as thoroughly as we possibly can, instead of just blank stares and nods. It's just not good for the city. I think that's one of the reasons why we have so many young people who don't want to participate. they don't see how they might contribute. If the game is you just show up and vote yes or no, bob your head. But, and there are exceptions. Look, I'm generalizing this for 7 people, but there are people who speak on multiple items every night. I'm not one. I rarely have an opinion. I want to talk about our history of, I guess, prioritization. And I'll start back with the streets because that's been one that's been with us from day one. And I look back at where we got into being innovative in how we approach street design and development. It goes back to a resident for some years now, and Jennifer Pangborn, she's a school board member serving 2 terms now, I think, is a former MoDOT engineer, now works for a private company. And she got together with some residents and a couple of council members, myself and Kara Wirtz, and exposes the idea of a walking survey of streets. And we started down on Woodbine. We walked Woodbine, and we talked about things that were hazardous there, what could be done to improve it for pedestrians and bicyclists and drivers. And I recall she ran into a great deal of pushback from professionals in our community, which I didn't understand. I just didn't, and to this day I don't understand. But what the long and the short of it was, that external person brought us where we are today. You saw the rebuild of Woodbine, and we now do those safety audits routinely on high profile locations. But that's the kind of thing we should have done internally. We shouldn't have waited on happenstance for somebody who just happened to care enough to get involved and take, somewhat of a private beating in order to get that done. So I'm thankful for her, for Jennifer, for making the effort that she did. We all benefit from that, and we'll continue to benefit from it. Finance. So money counts. It's a big deal. We got $102 million plus budget. But our adherence to tradition is pretty rigid. I remember the last reading that we had, council members urged the staff to be more creative in order to save us money. Now, I got to tell you, if you've signed off on 8 budgets and you haven't seen creativity, is it 9th, 10th? Which one do you say, hey, what do we need to do? Or maybe you need to supply some creativity on your own. Recommendations, search for alternate municipalities that have similar problems. But to just sit and sign off on every budget without any conversation is not good. It's not good for the community because they don't see you challenging things and hear you challenging things. And that's what they pay us to do. That big $2,000 a year check comes with some responsibilities. And one of those is to shepherd our money in the most effective way that we can. Next, I want to talk about, I call it the term of binding application of fairness. We have now for better than 10 years mistreated a number of residents, thousands of residents in this community with our street plan, our street repair, maintenance, replacement plan. Some people get fortunate and get the Cadillac street. And I've said this before, and the council's not reacted to it at all. Some folks get, it's a so-so street, and some folks get no street at all. And right now, we have a plan to continue more of the same. really disturbs me. And I think we should just have some curiosity to search for alternatives. It just should be part of your makeup. If we're not doing it personally, we should challenge our staff, our paid staff, to do that for us. Go out and find us something better. If you come back and say, I can't find anything, that's great. That's wonderful. We're doing the best we can. But I think we should always hope to find a better way of doing it. That gets to the opportunities for change and the things that I've attempted to do. I want the community to understand that I try to bring resources and ideas to this council for change that I think we can benefit from. We had two professionals, very experienced, from MoDOT show up, gave us a work session on alternate ways of bidding and funding our streets. And we essentially totally ignored it. We're desperately in need of a more effective way to handle our streets. Just last month, we increased the contract by $184,000, I think it was, to put a more inferior surface treatment down on that street. I'm not sure how anybody thinks that that's a great way for us to go over the next 10, 15, 20 years. It's just, it troubles me. Let me talk about the issue of our human capital. You know, we're in a world now that is competing with us on what historically has never been done. Folks working in the public service sector have always been a pretty isolated group. You didn't have them worrying about going someplace else. It was a close-knit, singular kind of operation, and people stayed here. Well, that's not the world we're in now. We're in a graying community. We have fewer young people. We have fewer young people wishing to come into an industry that is difficult at best and certainly less than profitable than others. And we seem to be frozen with fear on what to do with that. And I think that starts with that communication process of selling to the community what our employees' needs are and what the future of the city's needs are going to be in order to continue to have a first-rate city where people are dying to get in here. And I think finally, give me a minute. I knew this part would be tough for me. Two members, excuse me, two members of this leadership team who suffered in an unimaginable part right here in this room. Tim Griffin and John Haskell. You know, we can always challenge decisions that people make. And God knows I do that plenty. But for those two men, the doggone well should give them some respect for coming back here and demonstrating their love for this community by returning to this chamber week after week month after month, year after year, often being maligned by people in the audience. I remember the first meeting that the council had at the Rhyme Theater right after the tragedy. I was crushed by the behavior of people in there and the comments that people made to those council members who had suffered like that. We have to have a community that respects and honors those who serve in this position. And a lot of that starts with our behavior, what we demand, what we can command from people in this community. It makes a difference, and it'll make a difference going forward. I came here, and I suppose most of you did, not so I could ride in 8 parades. I came here because I wanted to make a difference today and tomorrow and 25 years from now. I can't say that we've done some things that will be here 25 years from now, but have we made the kind of unique, critical change that will make us a really confident community going forward? I can't say that. I don't see that right now. I see us in turmoil with a significant amount of our staff at a time when we could least afford it. And then speaking of affordability, you know, that's one of those things where I skipped the idea of data. None of you have asked what's the cost differential between what the civilian staff is asking for and what we're going to end up paying if we stay with the current plan. Be nice to know that. Be nice to share that with the community. I think they deserve that. But I say all of those things to just conclude with, you know, I have to tell myself that I've not been as successful as I thought I could be. And I think the city deserves better performance. The fact that I've not been successful with it doesn't mean that somebody else can't. Now I could stay here, finish my term, not be successful, be frustrated, win some minor skirmishes, but not the big ones. I'd rather open this seat up and maybe, just maybe, that person will show up and fill this spot who can get it done, who can show the leadership that I think we still need. And so with that, I've given clerk my letter of resignation. Thank you.
Thank you, Wallace. I was privy to this. And that's one reason I let Wallace do this. I know it's been hard, tough. You have high expectations of everyone, but higher expectations of yourself. And I know this is a decision that you've thought about, and are now doing it. And you're going to be missed. You're going to be missed up here. You do bring a perspective that many of us don't have. Some we don't want, but no.
My wife agrees with you.
Yeah, that's right. But with that, I will open. Let me make one comment first, and then I can open up to other people. This is the resignation is basically effective at midnight tonight, correct? Correct. You know, the process, which we're not going to get into for filling this seat, is council will appoint someone to serve until April. And then an election will be held to fill the remainder of the 2 years left in the term at that point in time. So would anyone, I know this is kind of hit everybody. Would anyone, any of the council like to say anything? I'll start over here. Don't have to, you can.
Wallace, you didn't consult me. And if you had, I would have worked like the devil to change your mind. But I respect what you've said and the decision that you've made. Makes me very emotional. Because of, you know, personally, I'll miss working with you. I believe none of us have maybe achieved what we thought we would be able to accomplish for whatever reason. And I believe there's work left to do that you would be extremely helpful, useful to have your knowledge. So anyway, I hope opportunity, I won't go on from there except to say, I hope there's an opportunity. I guess I could take it any, to after I adjust and formulate my words to really express to you and the public how I feel.
Thank you.
That'll happen another time. Does anyone else wish to say anything at this point? Maggie?
I will miss you. We often didn't agree, but we always disagreed with honor, and always liked you for a long, long time. And I will miss you and thank you for all of the work that you did both before and certain after council. Thank you. You're an honorable man.
Thanks.
You didn't consult me either. I would disagree with you, Wallace. I think you did not fail. I think you care about Kirkwood just as much as the rest of us do. And we all care about Kirkwood. We all worry about its future. And we worry about all of the things that you mentioned. And some of us maybe go at it a different way. Some of us have different priorities. But, you know, that diversity is what makes us successful. And I would disagree with you and say that you, in many ways, were successful by talking about things that other people may not have mentioned, that are good topics to discuss. And maybe you're more creative than some of us. I don't know, but I think you, I think you served a positive purpose. And that will be missed. And I've enjoyed working with you. You asked some good questions, and you know, I hope that that will inspire us to ask similar questions of the same vein. So, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Well, I have to say that this totally took me by surprise as well. Wasn't, I mean, did have quite a list there. And then as it kind of sort of gone on and then having difficulty expressing, it's like, what is going on here? So I'm sorry to hear this, Wallace. I can't say that I've not considered, sometimes being in this role is extremely frustrating. But I always talk myself down from that cliff and say, there are so many positive things about it. I don't know if it's possible to retract that letter that you gave to Lori and rethink this. But I appreciate your input. We don't always agree on everything, but there are many things that we do agree on. And like the rest of us, we've appreciated your service, and I'm sorry that you feel like you haven't been successful enough in your accomplishments or your input. But definitely appreciate the effort that it takes to run for office twice and to serve for now 5 years. And really to, adopt a parental role for the community in trying to look out for the welfare of current residents as well as the future and what that may bring. So I'm sorry to hear this, but I appreciate that for whatever personal reasons you've made this decision. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, hello. I'll miss our time together.
Makes,
I thought I was gonna be fine. I knew I was gonna have trouble getting through speaking about the mayor and John. I knew it was gonna be tough for me.
those were nice, very nice comments. Oh, a little odd, but Chief Administrative Officer report.
Beyond saying it's been a pleasure working with you here, Wallace. I have no report.
City Attorney report.
Oh, I wish I could be as eloquent as John Hessel, and I'm sure he
Oh,
would be
not.
effusive.
No. Actually, we're kind of glad he's not here tonight.
He'd be effusive in talking about the pleasure of working with you, Wallace. And certainly in my limited opportunity, it's been an honor. Other than that,
He could probably tell you about a few parties down at Seymour.
that's what I'll ask him about.
And
Nothing beyond that. Thank you, Mayor.
City Clerk report.
I don't have anything to report except for Wallace. We will miss you. It has been an honor working with you. We'll miss your visits to City Hall. We will not miss our candy dishes being emptied every Thursday night.
Now, be fair. I brought in
But
a
we
big
do
bag.
appreciate you did bring us in refills
Mm-hmm.
from time to time. So we do appreciate that. So we'll see you again.
Well, with that, next meeting of City Council is 7 PM on July 6th. This meeting is adjourned. So,